So on behalf of MEDCO Tool, welcome to MEDCO University. This will be a series of monthly webinars broken into 3 different segments: paint, body, and equipment, tools and equipment in the heavy-duty market. It will be presented on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Tuesday of every month, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Our focus will be to bring you the latest in new products and technologies so that you can stay on top of this ever-changing business. Hopefully you'll take away awareness of the problems that technicians and shop owners are facing every day and be able to enhance your value to the customers by offering solutions to those problems. I hope you join us for your particular business segment, but also perhaps listen in to other webinars to discover potentially new revenue streams going forward. If you have any topics that you would like to see MEDCO University present to you, please feel free to pass those suggestions on to either MEDCO customer service reps or your area manager, and they'll forward them to the appropriate people, and we'll see if we can get those subjects tackled in the next few months. A reminder that our next webinar will be Tuesday, September 25th, with associated products and how the battery market has changed and the challenges of onboard electronics and the requirements it takes in a more sophisticated battery charger these days, particularly with the AGM and Dell batteries technologies that you're finding today. Should you have any questions that arise during the presentation, feel free to type them in the chat presentation folder and send them to the presenter, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And at this point, I'd like to start tonight's presentation on how spray gun and air management technologies can go a long way to guaranteeing that your paint stays in your shops, and how aware you have to be of shop conditions in order to recommend the proper type of equipment. With us tonight as our host is Jeff Bell, Sales Manager for the Central U.S. for DeVilbiss Automotive Refinishing. Jeff has 18 years of experience as a painter, followed by another 15 years with DeVilbiss, where he started out in customer service and tech support. And currently, Jeff covers 13 states and is responsible for coordinating services to 30 paint training centers across the U.S. and Canada. With that, again, thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And again, guys, thanks for your patience. We appreciate it. Like Mark said, sorry about the technical difficulties. It worked an hour ago, so I'm not sure what happened. Thank you for joining us for the DeVilbiss Refinish Solutions training module. And, okay, when I hit my enter button, nothing happens, Mark. More technical difficulties. There we go. We got it. Okay, tonight we're going to start out with water rescue. We're going to talk about waterborne, managing the waterborne results with equipment. Again, my name is Jeff Bell, and I'm the sales manager for the Central U.S. Some of the things we're going to talk about is success with conversions to water, what they involve, managing the booth, air quality and air application in the booth, adjusting to the environment. As we all know, with waterborne products, temperature and humidity are a huge factor in how you need to adjust and set up a spray gun. Managing the painter, gun selection, disposable cups. We're going to talk about compressed air filtration regulation. We all know clean, dry, oil-free air is required when spraying either waterborne or solvent materials. Some guys ask why that's so important with waterborne. What you'll find is, guys, when you got shops get into waterborne will not dissipate anything that comes to air filtration. In solvent days, if you got a little bit of moisture, if you had a little bit of oil that came through the lines, it wasn't too big of a deal in minute particles because the solvent-based product would dissipate that. Water will not dissipate anything, so it's much more imperative to have clean, dry, oil-free air. The slightest amount of contamination can cause coating imperfections. That's why DeVilbiss believes that point-of-use filters, air dryers, and regulators provide the cleanest, driest air possible and therefore a superior finish. This picture here, diagram, feel free to use it. This is a properly piped shops diagram. It shows how the piping comes out of the compressor, where to put your automatic drains, bypasses around refrigerant dryers, drop legs, things like that. DeVilbiss does not sell anything that is a air filtration unit for the complete shop. It is a point of use for the prep station, the body man, the paint shop, whatever, but all of our units are point of use units. This is our 130522 or our CT Plus. This is our 5-stage filter unit. This is a point-of-use unit. This removes water, dirt, and oil down to 0.01 micron. Desiccant removes the humidity down to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This has an inlet shutoff valve for easy maintenance, as well as an outlet shutoff valve. You'll notice with this unit that it has the desiccant in a bag. You remove the 6 bolts in the top of the lid, remove the lid, pull out the bag, drop it in a new bag. It's the easiest maintaining unit on the market. Self-relieving regulators. It's excellent for paint applications in areas of medium to high humidity. Anybody that has desiccant, this is the way to go. One thing you'll find that's not in here with all DeVilbiss air filtration units, our first stage filters or the water trap dirt filter, we use a 5-micron filter. And the reason we use a 5-micron filter is the naked eye can see 10 micron or larger. So with having a 5-micron filter, anything that comes through that unit, you're never going to see in a paint job. And then all of our oil coalescers are 0.01 micron, which is cleaner than the air that we're breathing right now. Anytime we recommend changing an air filtration unit, we always recommend a new hose and fitting assembly. This is one of many that we offer, but this is one that comes with the coupler, the stem. This is an HA5867. It's a 3/8 35-foot air hose. This is the best setup for in a booth. A lot of questions we get is how long does an air hose need to be? Well, you want it the proper length to get around the car, but you don't want it so long that you're tripping on it. And we found that a 35-foot length is just about the right length to get one halfway around the car in a booth and then back the other direction to get the other way around. So 3/8, least amount of pressure drop, and with the HVLP couplers and stems with the low pressure drop through them as well. This pressure drop chart shows a comparison at 50 psi inlet at 20 CFM versus what some of the competition has out there for paint coupler, for air coupler and stems and pressure drops. Our DeVilbiss chart shows ours being the best. Obviously, we have a 1.2 pound pressure drop. RBL is very good, 2.0 pound. The HVLP sharp units are a 3.4 pound. That's all minimal pressure drop. The issue is when you run into some of the Milton Type M styles, the Prevost, when you start losing 25 or 28 pounds of pressure through a coupler, then you start having color match issues. You start having finish quality issues with orange peel and things of that nature. So this is a chart that, please feel free to reference at any point. This picture here shows the correct setup. As you see, we have the 5-stage unit mounted to the wall with a 3/8 hose, and that hose is connected directly to the unit, to the air filtration unit. All DeVilbiss air filtration units will finish with a 1/4-inch male nipple or ball valve. All of our air hoses are 1/4-inch female. So the 1/4-inch female threads right onto the 1/4-inch male connection at the air filtration or the wall unit. There's no need for a coupler at that point. That's just a source for pressure drop. We understand you're going to have a disconnect at the gun just for ease of use and disconnecting out of the booth and things like that. And of course, we always recommend a digital gauge, especially when you get into waterborne products. A lot of these paint companies, for their control coat, their effect coat, depending on the paint company, whatever they call it with waterborne, they want you at 12 pounds or 14 pounds. And to get at that pressure on a dial gauge, all you know is it's in between 10 and 20. And if you're not at the pressures the paint company recommend, you'll have color match issues. When drying waterborne, the most economical way to do that is with the handheld dryers or the dryer guns and stands. This is the 130530 Aero Gun Dryer Gun by DeVilbiss. This gun is meant to be blown across the painted surface. You never blow directly on the painted surface. The theory behind that is as you blow across the surface, you pull moisture out of the paint. By pulling the moisture out of the waterborne, that's how it dries. Cheaper, inexpensive dryers can be inefficient using undue amounts of expensive compressed air. Our air dryer uses a 7-to-1 ratio. It is the most efficient ratio on the market. For every 1 CFM in, is 7 CFM out. And then this chart here shows how efficient it really is. We are the only manufacturer of the air dryers that will actually show you a chart on how much PSI in and what the amplification ratio is. You won't see any of the others. Some of the guys will feel like they blow more air. And what happens if you get into say you're at 50 pounds and ours is 11.5 CFM and some of these other guys are using 20 or 22 CFM, yes, it does move more air at that point, but they're going to kill their compressors and they run hot, they have moisture issues and other things start happening. So this is a very nice, quiet, and efficient unit. This is the same unit, but it's in a stand version. And the nice thing about this will go up to 7 feet high. It's the only unit on the market that will extend high enough to do van and pickup roofs. It has a 4-leg base, which makes it work very well on graded floors and things like that. One of the things that we try to talk about is how guys can be more efficient in the booth and not have the amount of redos and be more productive. You know, one way to have less redos is have less dirt in your paint jobs. This is the Dirt Control Floor Coat by DeVilbiss. We've actually run this in booths, and painters tell us normally they get 30 to 50% less dirt than what they had before. If you use it properly, it's very economical to use. Clean the booth floor. Apply a nice even coat. It takes about a 1-quart application per downdraft booth floor, and that's good for about 8 cars. It works out to about $8 a quart, so if it's good for $8, $1 a car, most guys don't have an issue with having a cleaner paint job for $1 a car. It just has to be used the right way. You don't want to put this down on the floor every time after every job, or it's going to get expensive, and somebody's not going to be happy with the money you're spending on booth coat. Used properly, you know, you have the potential to have less buffing, less rubbing time, cleaner paint jobs. Maybe you're not buffed at all, more throughput. You know, you get another 1 or 2 cars painted a week if you're spending less time buffing. Also, going along through the DeVilbiss Clean line, we have what we call the wipeouts. This is the last defense before you paint. It has a static killing formula. It's great for plastic parts, bumper covers, things like that. One place that I find that it really works well also is on fiberglass parts. We all have cleaned with cotton rags where you wipe on a pre-cleaner with one rag, dry with the other. You feel the static electricity pulling on your arm hair as you're drying this off. Or when you're tack wiping, if you take one of these pre-saturated wipes and you wipe off the surface the way it's intended to be used, you will feel that static electricity go away, and on fiberglass parts, they'll come out cleaner than you've ever had them come out before. This is a laser-cut polypropylene towel. There's no little fibers, no little pieces of anything that will come off of it. Like Mark mentioned earlier, I painted cars for 18 years, and I used to think that I got my stuff pretty clean before I sprayed. I went through the process, wiped off what I thought was ready to paint with one of these towels, and it was amazing how much cleaner it really became and how much debris and contamination was on the towel. Anti-stat wipers are a dry wiper. They do basically the same thing, except you're not going to want to use anything with any chemicals between base coats of base or after base and clear. So this is a dry anti-stat wiper. The wet wiper before you apply your sealer, you know, after you've gone ahead and sealed the vehicle, the anti-stat wiper works great. After sealer, before base, between coats of base, and after base before clear. Does the same type of thing. Removes static electricity and makes your paint jobs much cleaner. Again, we're trying to find ways for guys to get paint jobs cleaner, not have redos, be more productive. You know, painters don't like to buff. That's no secret. If they can go get a cleaner paint job, we can find ways to help them do that. Another way to do that is with disposable cups. You know, we know disposable cups. You know, 10 years ago, we didn't know what a disposable cup was, if it was ours or the competitors. And now, you know, we don't know how big the opportunity is, but we know there's a lot of shops out there, probably 80% of them that are using disposable cups today. They can be extremely advantageous in improving finish quality and productivity. Your jobs will turn out cleaner. You have a new liner every time you spray. Cleanup is much quicker, making painters more productive. All you have to clean is the fluid passage in the spray gun. You're not cleaning the 32-ounce aluminum cup and wiping it out. You don't have the solvent costs or the hazardous waste costs associated with that. The disposal, the cleanup, you know, that's all things that, you know, most guys cut their hazardous waste disposal, you know, at least in a third, if not, you know, if not 75%. So obviously a very good way to go. Ours have a larger filter area for waterborne, are required for filtration because of to get proper fluid flow. Waterborne is very thixotropic. It takes a lot of pressure to get it going through a strainer. Once it starts going, that's not an issue. You cannot use these with our barrel filters in our disposable cup. They are too thick. These are available in 125 and 200 micron, depending on what paint the shop is using. BASF and Sherwin recommend 200 micron for their water. All of the other paint manufacturers recommend 125 for their water. Highlights of some of our cups. We use frosted liners. That allows the painter to see when a liner is installed in the reusable sleeve. We have separate filters, which enables the painters to store and tint in that cup without the use of extra lids. Pull the filter out, tint it, put it back in, put the filter on, go on about your business. A solid lid with wedge locking system allows for shaking without a separate adapter and easy removal of the cup lid after paint has dried. This is particularly an issue with waterborne materials. You have to change that lid on the competitive brand, where on ours you just pull from the lid, pull out the filter, and continue on. The secure adapter connection eliminates issues with cups coming loose from the adapter, constant fluid flow because of the consistent cup thickness. The shipping box is also this dispenser box. Excuse me. We find this is huge in body shops. One of the complaints they have with some of the competitors is the boxes or the dispenser units get dirty over time. Every time you go through 32 liners, you hang a brand new box up of ours. Some disposable cups can cause a reduction in fluid flow of up to 16% over a standard vented cup. Waterborne materials are very thixotropic and tend to increase in viscosity as fluid flow is lessened. The reduction in fluid flow increases the air-to-fluid ratio, making droplet size smaller. You make your droplet size too small, you're going to run into color match issues. The smaller the droplet size, the lighter the color, and you're struggling with higher air pressures. The DeVilbiss disposable cups that we just showed was our D cup, which is a unvented liner system. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our gunner cups, which is a vented disposable two-piece system. You get a more consistent fluid flow with a vented cup. You don't see a change in fluid flow from a full cup to an almost empty cup. There's no reusables to clean other than the disposable cup. There's no mixing cup needed, and these are stackable and storable. There's flat lids available. You pull off the spray lid, put on a flat lid, and they stack right on top of each other. Waterborne spray guns. With waterborne guns, you're going to use a plastic cup or a disposable cup, stainless steel needle and nozzle, corrosion-resistant fluid passage, corrosion-resistant gun body. The Techna, the CVI, the SRI, and the Finish line are all waterborne compatible guns. In the DeVilbiss line, if it's an anodized gun, it's waterborne compatible. All of our colored guns are anodized. The black coated guns, either in the Techna version or the Pro Light version, are quick clean guns. The quick clean coating is a very scratch resistant, corrosion resistant coating that's impervious to a lot of different materials. It cleans up extremely well. The Finish Line 4 is a waterborne compatible gun, comes with 3 fluid tips. This would be something for your economy guys, maybe guys looking for a waterborne gun to cut parts in. Maybe it's in your C&D shops. This maybe isn't a gun you'd put in the A shops. But in the $200 range, it's one of the best spraying guns on the market, and it is completely waterborne compatible. The SRI Pro, again, waterborne compatible, premium touch-up gun. What it includes. That talks about the product. We have a second part to this, is a DeVilbiss Automotive Refinishing Worldwide presentation called How to Master the Elements. This talks about waterborne products, how to make adjustments, how the Pro Light can benefit you, how we can make you more repeatable in what painters are trying to do in shops. One question that, I used to work the phones for a lot of years, and guys would call in and have an issue. One of the first questions we ask is, what pressure do you spray at? Well, they don't know. The key here would be to make the painter repeatable on what they do. Air pressures fluid control knobs, fan adjustment. If you do the same thing over and over, when these guys have problems, it's real easy to fix. And if they're doing the same thing over and over and they're doing it right, their possibility of having problems becomes a lot less. They become more productive because things are more repeatable. Back in the solvent days, we used to utilize different reducers and hardeners and formulations to compensate for changes in temperature. We had more consistent application and dry times. If it was hot out, you went to a 90-degree reducer. If it was cold out, you went to a 70. I mean, that was pretty simple. We have a lot of extreme climates that we work in, anywhere from, you know, Arizona in August to Northeast Canada in February, and we have one gun that fits that whole market. You know, when you get into waterborne, you may not be able to change the reducer or the formulation. They're affected by temperature and humidity. There are, you know, slow water, fast water, some of the paint companies have. Sometimes you got to make a gun adjustment. We feel we have the best product to do that with. Spray booths, when we get into waterborne, we artificially heat them to compensate for cold temperatures. We heat the air from somewhere between 70 to 95 degrees. Sometimes our outside ambient temperature exceeds 95 degrees. What if we have low humidity? We're going to talk about equipment solution needs, things that will help dry time and applications and things like that, ultimately to help throughput and that make the shops be more productive. Finish quality is directly linked to atomization. Used to be finer atomization was always a better finish. Waterborne base coats, 2.0 VOC clear coats, that's not always necessarily the case. We're going to show you how to get the right atomization or droplet size. The atomization is too fine, it can cause issues. We used to tell people that, you know, run a 1-3 tip or a 1-2 tip and you get the flattest finish as possible. Not always the case. Some of this stuff starts becoming waterborne or low VOC. Solutions for optimum application and dry time includes all refinished materials, all climates, all conditions. We have one platform of spray gun that includes 3 different air caps and 3 fluid tips. We can make 9 different setups out of our ProLite gun, and I can take you one gun and I can spray in Southern California in August, or I can spray in Western Canada in January, and I can do it with that same gun by just making some adjustments. This chart here shows the 3 different air caps that are available for the ProLite gun. The TE10 with the cactus over it would be for your hot, dry conditions. That's going to be the biggest, wettest droplet available. The HV30 air cap is going to be the smallest droplet available, and that's going to be the least wet coating, and with the rain cloud for more humid conditions. So depending on your location, where you're looking to spray, if you need to make a change for droplet size or dry times, especially with waterborne, with solvent as well, but especially with water, I can do that with an air cap change. Any of the other spray gun manufacturers have to do that with a fluid tip change. And let's face it, it's much easier to make an air cap change than it is a fluid tip change. So if I can do that, I'm not wasting time tearing a whole gun apart. I make an air cap change, put it on, keep right on going. You'll see when looking at these 3 different air caps that the droplet size is a direct correlation to the CFM of the cap. The bigger, wetter droplet is a 9 CFM cap. The smallest droplet, which would be the driest application, is a 16 CFM cap. Okay? Our guns come with 3 different fluid tips, a 1-2, a 1-3, and a 1-4. One fluid needle fits every one of those fluid tips in the ProLite gun, so you don't have to change the needle. And just to give you a little idea on the grams per minute, you're looking at about, on the 1.2, that's about 7 to 8 ounces, and the other one is about 8 to 9, and on the 1.4, you're looking at about, 9 to 10 ounces a minute. If you're working in ounces or grams, that just gives you a little heads up on where that falls in. Most painters like to paint somewhere in the 7 to 9 ounce a minute range is normally where most automotive body shop guys like their guns to perform. This chart here is a real nice chart. It shows, depending on what air cap and what fluid tip, what your droplet size is. You can go from an HV30 with a 1.2 to a TE10 with a 1.4 by, or you can just change the fluid tip, or I'm sorry, the air cap. I can go from HV30 with a 1.2 to a TE10 with a 1.2, and that's a dramatic change in how a gun performs. But I can do that by changing air cap, and if that's not enough, then I can start making the fluid tip change as well, either bigger or smaller depending on what direction I'm looking to go. Improvements we've made to the Techno line: the quick clean gun body, easier cleanup. Like I said earlier, it's a corrosion-resistant, scratch-resistant coating, completely coated inside and out. We have it in all the paint company training centers across the country. Most of them tell us it's the easiest clean and spray gun in the world. It's a lighter, more ergonomic gun body, the Pro Light is. Increased comfort, less fatigue. It's a 408 or 9 gram gun, one of the lightest guns on the market. We have changed the fluid control knob to a female thread that protects the threads during spraying. It used to be with a male knob, you'd get overspray and paint and stuff on them, then the knob was hard to clean. Well, just by switching that to a female fluid control knob, it makes it easier to keep clean. Split pin holds the baffle assembly on the gun body. The baffle is the part right behind the fluid tip. It used to be on the first version of Technos, you'd have to change a tip. You'd pull off the air cap, take off the fluid tip, the baffle would fall off. We put a split pin on the baffle on the back side, so when it goes in the gun body, it kind of wedges on there and stays in place, and it's not a big deal, but now when you go to change the fluid tip, the baffle don't fall off. We've changed the seals on the fan control knob and the air valve, making it easier, more smooth trigger pull, and more smooth and accurate fan control adjusting knob. Standardizing gun setup. This is something that, I've tried to preach to guys for years. This is huge. And most painters that have been painting for any length of time think they automatically know how to set their gun up to and where it should be. And in theory, they should, but most of them don't. Improving work quality and productivity involves developing procedures that produce high-quality work efficiently every time. This is extremely important when setting up and balancing a spray gun to deliver optimal results, quick, repeatable manner. This sounds like it's kind of a pain to do, but it's really easy. You do it one time, you keep track of it, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And once you do it one time, it's very easy, it's repeatable. This chart here is a Techno Pro Light quick startup guide. This has the main paint manufacturers on there with the Techno Pro Light, starting points for their products, where to set it up, and a couple comments or recommendations if something needs to change. Again, this is just a recommendation. If I grab the very first line, which is PPG waterborne, we tell you it's a TE10 with a 1.2, 26 to 28 pounds, 16 to 18 pounds for your control code. In high humidity, they say use the HV30 with the 1.3, okay? So the HV30 is going to give you a smaller droplet, but the 1.3 is going to make it a little bit bigger. So, that kind of contradicts what it's doing. But because of the higher CFM, they like the way it lays it out. But again, this is just a reference guide. Somebody might like the 1.3 with the TE10. Somebody might want to put the TE20 on the gun and leave the 1.2 tip. So it's just a starting point. Digital gauges, a definite must with waterborne. I recommend them over a dial gauge 99% of the time. They determine the correct inlet pressure is critical for atomization and color match. Waterborne orientation coats are often sprayed at 12 psi and can easily be measured with a dial type gauge. One thing that you'll find when this gun has gauge has its approval, a digital gauge will be accurate plus or minus a half a pound. So if it reads 26, it might be 25.5, it might be 26.5, but it's within a half. A dial gauge, because of ASME standards, and it's done on a clock spring, will be plus or minus 5 pounds. So when you set that gauge at 25, you might be at 20, you might be at 30. You don't know. The first time you drop a dial gauge, it can be off as much as 5 pounds. Another 5. And I don't know which way it's going to go, good or bad. It might be right on or it might be off 10. If you drop a digital gauge, when you pick it up and you turn it on, if it reads anything but 0.0, by holding in the button with the arrow for 3 seconds, that gauge will recalibrate itself and go back to 0.0. And you can start right over. So, yes, they're a little more money. They're included with all of our Techno guns. So if the guy has to buy one, I think they're $69 or whatever, but they're definitely a better way to go. They're more accurate, and you can be more repeatable. Gun adjustments, top knob on the back of the gun is the pattern control knob, controls the height of the spray pattern. The knob just below that is the fluid adjustment knob, controls how much fluid. Then we have an air adjustment valve or a digital gauge at the bottom of the spray gun. Initial gun setup. I always take my pattern adjustment knob, turn it clockwise out as far as it will go or wide open. I take my fluid adjustment knob, I back it out counterclockwise. Not all the way because there's not a stop, and if you go too far, the thing goes shooting out, the fluid spring goes across the shop, and, you know, then you can't find it. Back it almost all the way out till you get full trigger. Pull the trigger on the gun till you feel it pull against the gun body. Turn that fluid control knob in until you feel it start to push against the trigger. That does two things for you. That gets the fluid needle out of the way of the fluid tip to give you good fluid flow. You don't want the needle blocking the fluid tip at all. The other thing it does is it puts maximum spring tension on the fluid spring, so when you let go of the trigger, you get your fluid needle closing quickly and as solidly as possible. You don't get any drips off the front of the gun. I've always seen guys that they don't, you know, they want to dust something in real small or do a spot job, so they turn their fluid control knob in all the way so the needle barely gets out of the way of the tip. That doesn't give you good fluid flow, and you're not going to get good atomization. If you have the gun adjusted properly and you need less fluid, go to a smaller fluid tip. And if you need more fluid, obviously go to a bigger fluid tip. But, you know, the guy that has a 1.4 in the gun is trying to duff something in and he's having a hard time, go to a 1.2 tip nut. That's what you need to do. This picture here shows a split pattern on a spray gun. That's caused by too much air pressure or a pattern that needs balancing. I can change that two ways. I can take the fan control knob on the top and turn it in, which would bring my fan closer together, top and bottom. I can also reduce my air inlet pressure, which will take away air from the center of the horns of the gun, which will let that pattern come back together more as well. This tells you how to adjust a split pattern. We always recommend that you do a static pattern, which is the pattern on the left, and then we'd like you to do a dynamic pattern, which is the pattern on the right. This allows you to look and see what the pattern does. One thing you're looking for when you look at the pattern on the left is not so much the design of the pattern, but the size of the droplets all the way around the outside of that pattern. You're looking at the atomization or the droplet size of the paint. You want it to be the same size at the top as it is in the middle as it is at the bottom. With a split pattern, you would have smaller droplets in the middle than you would have at the top and bottom, and you would adjust that accordingly. Once you balance it, this picture here shows what you have. Air pressure is too low, you're heavy in the middle, okay? Again, you're going to make some adjustments accordingly. You're going to perform your static and dynamic spray pattern, adjust the pattern knob all the way counterclockwise or wide open, increase your air pressure until it widens to an acceptable droplet size. Again, you're looking for consistent droplets all the way from the top to the bottom. I walk into a lot of shops, you go in the booth, you see where a guy hung up a piece of paper, he does a burst, and he's looking at the look of the pattern, okay, the oval, the football, the dog bone, whatever you want to call it. He does not even look at the droplet size. Oh, I had a good spray pattern, how come I got an orange Bailey finish? Well, the droplets around the outside are too big, so adjust that accordingly. This will help you decipher what size fluid tip you need as well. Again, a correct air pressure and a balanced pattern. This shows perform a static and dynamic spray pattern, evenly shaped with consistent droplet size all the way around the edge of the pattern. When you do a dynamic pattern, you get even distribution and droplet all the way throughout the sleeve. It's not going to look heavy at the top and heavy at the bottom and light in the middle. That's where guys get modeling and tiger striping and things like that. It's from not proper gun setup. Again, the correct pattern. Keeping track of adjustments. This is what we spoke about a little bit earlier. Once the spray gun has been correctly adjusted for air pressure, pattern and fluid for a particular material, record the gun settings. You know, all these painters say, oh, I'm not doing that. That's too much. There's two ways to do it. We have a sheet in here that will show it on the next slide that you're more than welcome that we can get to any of you. Just ask us. But another thing that works is I always took a piece of masking tape and I'd put right on the wall and put sealer and make my notes, base coat, make my notes, clear coat, make my notes. And what you want to do is record the air pressure, count how many turns out the fan control or the pattern control knob is. So, you know, there's an indicator on the back of the fan control knobs for a reason. I mean, we just don't put an indicator on there. We put it there so once you know where you like it, you can count how many turns all the way in till it stops, and you know you're 1.5 or 2 3/4 turns out. The same with the fluid control knob. Adjust it back all the way out. Most of the time, you're going to be pretty close to full trigger, because most of the time you're going to make that adjustment by fluid tip size as well. And then this chart here is just a spray gun standard operating procedure chart. I mean, it's pretty simple. We put it together. What gun, what fluid tip, what air cap, what pressure you spray the particular product, how many turns out on the pattern control knob or the fluid control knob, and if we even went and added the orientation code, because that's going to be at normally about a 20 to 30% pressure drop from the coverage coat for your water boards. I think that pretty much covers it. If there's anything that we can help you with, I'll be good. You can have my email address. You can feel free to call our 800 number. Ask us at DeVilbiss.com is our email address. You can email us. We will be glad to help anybody any way we can. Like I say, we work with all the paint companies, the BASF, TPG, DuPont, Sherwin. We work very closely with them as they develop product. They come to us for gun recommendations. We come out with guns and fluid tip sizes for particular paint companies. And that's about it. I mean, again, thank you for your time. We appreciate you guys putting up with our technical difficulties at the beginning. And is there any questions I can answer at this point?
Okay, Jeff, well, they will have to type in their questions so we can hang on a little bit to see if anybody has any. Again,
sure.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. As Jeff mentioned, again, I apologize for the technical difficulties in the beginning. But I think one of the messages from tonight's presentation is clearly as you plan and anticipate bringing value to your shops, you need to dig into their processes and their equipment and how they're set up, and really become knowledgeable with each individual shop on your customer list to find out where they might be having problems. Again, our next webinar will be Tuesday, September 25th with Associated Products, discussing the new battery technologies that are coming down in the new cars today. Again, we thank you very much. These sessions will be recorded, and very soon there will be a library available on your MEDCO website where you'll be able to click on to any of these webinars for those who missed it, or if you want to go back and check out some information. The sessions will be recorded, and we'll develop a MEDCO University library on your MEDCO website. Again, thank you very much for your participation. We appreciate you giving up time tonight, and most of all, we appreciate your business with MEDCO Tool. Thank you and good night.